The band is nothing but Thieves, and you listened to the song Amsterdam by them in the past. Any hazy recollection of that experience at all, John?
Yes, he left his heart in Amsterdam. I remember thinking that was careless. Hey, everybody, and welcome to an episode of the Audiophiles Lake. My name's John. His name is Andy. And don't the sun look good today? But the rain is on its way. Watch the butcher shine his knives, and this town is full of bad wives. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to. Andy, what do you got for us today?
We're gonna check out a band that has appeared once before on this channel. I think we're kind of overdue on checking out them again. The band is nothing but Thieves, and you listened to the song Amsterdam by them in the past. Any hazy recollection of that experience at all, John?
Yes, he left his heart in Amsterdam. I remember thinking that was careless.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a hell of a place to
and
leave.
yeah, I do remember. Um, yes, I do remember getting some crap for not saying how wonderful the guy's voice was from the comments. So we'll see.
Yes, we'll see. So that was off their second album. I'm gonna have you check out something that was on the off the album that preceded that. And you give his voice and the band another go and let us all know what you think of it. The track that I want you to check out is called "Excuse Me." So, got
Okie
everything you
dokie.
need. Excuse yourself. Go give this thing a listen and come on back and let us know where you stand.
Can do, will do.
Space crowds out your space, your space crowds out hers. Coffee breath and headphone hears, but no one says it word. As upon a paper headline, refuge.
Okay, very nice start. And you got very sort of subdued drums, sort of next door timpanis almost. Um, yeah, restraint is the word. And then it's very gently sort of picked guitar. Um, and then your man comes in. Um, he's singing almost, I think it's either falsetto or right at the top of his range. And it has a sort of, again, it's a kind of restrained quality. I wouldn't say loose, but it's almost the relaxed, it's almost like a breathy jazziness to it, which is nice. And he sings a few lines, and then you can get the drum proper beat starts coming in, and it's building. Obviously, it's going to come to something. Can't wait to see what.
In your farm, pumping shoulders, coffee stiff, but no one says hello.
Sorry, that was just interesting. I'm just going to whiz that back and listen to what he said again, see if that's exactly what I heard.
A headline, refuge in your farm, pumping shoulders, coffee stiff, but no one says hello.
Yeah, he's on bumping shoulders, cough and sniff. I think he said. No one says hello. I don't know when this was written, but it sounds like from what he was saying that crowds and space as well. there's something about coffee breath and headphones. So I'm picturing on a packed tube carriage. But it's interesting. Don't know when this was written, but I'm guessing pre-pandemic, because you have a very different feel on it, especially cough and sniff and no one says hello. Has a very different meaning post 2020 for most people anyway. But yeah, interesting. That was unexpected. So yeah, there's this again, this falsetto sort of wail. Not the mammal. It's interesting. It's this outpouring of frustration or something. It sounds like something from the 80s was either a soul or R&B or dancey that had that sort of that note in it. It just seems really familiar. Not really, really familiar, but slightly familiar. Sorry. Yeah. And then the way the chorus went big, it's really nice. It's effective. And we've really got to get out of here, I think they said. Yeah, interesting. It's painting a picture.
It's like your stars, her stars. My heart keeps good time.
Beats gone proper now.
Between you and me, here comes someone else to share the air we breathe. Excuse me while I run, I really gotta get out of here. Reach out for anyone, and they will tell you get out of here. I'm asking everyone, you gotta help me get out of here. Excuse me while I run, I really got to get out of here. Meanwhile, under the gun, hey everyone, our work here is done. Away out, you gonna come. Hey everyone, our work here is done.
Hey, I think I missed it the first chorus because I was quite surprised by what was happening. So that second chorus that happened, I noticed there was a lot more sort of like the keyboard, the synth lines were filling in the layers there. And there was a rising note, I think, a couple of times, adding to the sort of concern or anxiety of the chorus. And also there was more than one voice singing, "We've got to get out of here," which kind of gives it this kind of almost like groupthink sort of feel to it as well. Like we're all thinking this, got to get out of here, which I think means that he's mentioning about how we connect with people, and the packed tube is obviously a metaphor, I guess, for society in general. That's what I'm guessing. That sort of bridgy bit then and going to that was a bit more sort of mainstreamy, stadium-y, rocky type thing. Really reminded me of Muse. Not that I'm an expert on them, but from what I've heard, that's the sort of thing. Kind of has bit of touches of Bellamy about this actually. Probably not the sort of excesses that he goes to or used to go to, I have to say. Yeah, interesting. Right, back to the chorus again. But yeah, well, listen to it now. But yeah, it was a lot fuller. Other bits going on which I missed the first time because of the surprise of his opening falsetto wail.
Excuse me while I run, I really gotta get out
that old trick where you just did the last line a cappella. Um, it's always effective though. That's why they do it. It's a great trick. Yeah, this is interesting. It's fairly catchy. I I could see this being wildly popular, and I could see people going a boat for his voice as well. It definitely displayed his voice a lot better, the techniques that he has and the ability he has, than the first song I listened to. Um, yeah, interesting. Okay, let's find out some more. Let's go back and chop it up with Andy.
All right, so you are back, John. What did you think of your second go with Nothing But Thieves and their track "Excuse Me"?
So yeah, this song starts with subdued drums. I think you've said this and other things before. They're sort of next door timpanis almost, and a very gently picked guitar. Enter the vocalist, also with a low key style to begin with, a slightly breathy, almost jazzy attitude to his delivery, which I quite liked. The lyrics mention something about space, your space, crowds, coffee breath, and headphones. So I'm picturing like a packed out tube carriage.
Yeah.
The guitar starts striking pacemaker chords like every now and then, and the muted drums seem to be a smidgen clearer now. They also slightly quicken their efforts, but not a lot. But like a white dancing horse in the dressage, changing pace imperceptibly. Then we go to like the next verse, which is definitely a perceptible quickening of pace of the drums and guitars. Not pacey, but just slightly a bit more. I catch lyrics: bumping shoulders, cough and sniff. No one says hello. And I'm thinking this must be pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
As the perspective has certainly shifted since then. It used to be only tourists and pissed up northerners who would speak on the tube. Now I guess it's only anti-vaxxers. Uh, so just as I'm thinking this is it's all very nice and well done. But it feels like just more like an extended intro into something beefier. We suddenly get this vocal, and I paused it here, and literally as I under the pause, we get this vocal wail. Not the mammal, as I said in the reaction. And it's straight from like a 1970s like R&B or soul or 80s dance. There's something there, and the gears shift into a very fulsome chorus. It has that sort of light and shade with a degree of pomp that reminds me of Muse, minus the earlier guitar excesses of Mr. Bellamy. Bless him. So yeah, it's a big chorus. It sounds really good. The next verse fills out the form so that all the instruments are now under restraint. They're not going manic, but they're at full pelt and full pace, as it were. And he mentions about the heartbeats matching and minding the gap, which is a underground pun. I don't know if you're aware of it, but you
No,
probably
I
are.
am, because in a recent video that we did, the idea of minding that phrase "mind the gap" came up, and you explained it as sort of this transit kind of term for minding the space between the platform and the tube itself, and that is actually what made me think of this song and that line and put it on the list. So just there you go, full circle.
Mind the gap. Mind the gap. Don't fall down the great big fucking hole and electrocute yourself. It's a lot longer, but it's not as catching. Yeah, but they still have to say it because people do. But he also mentions about sharing the air. I'm guessing he's referring here, this is an overall sort of metaphor about how we interact and contact and relate to each other within society. Again, it's really interesting how an event like the pandemic, which is, massive at the time, 5 years later, it doesn't feel like such a big thing. It's not having a big shadow over us, but it puts this huge slant on things that wasn't intended at the time of him writing this. I don't know when he wrote this, but you said it was earlier than the one before, so it's
Hmm.
sometime in the noughties. Um,
Hmm.
but picture this narration he's doing, but picture the passengers now with face masks on in the
Yeah,
tube and trying to keep 2 meters social distancing from each other. Sharing the air that they breathe holds a completely different implication now.
it is
Um,
interesting.
and you wonder when the next pandemic, will it be spread by touch or by smell or by noise emanating from headphones? I don't know, but yeah, really interesting, and it put me in mind of all these things as I was listening to this. Again, we get that wail, and it really does remind me of something that that his vocal, sort of run, as it were, and then the sort of first 3 or 4 seconds really reminds me of something. I'm convinced it's from the 80s. It's kind of soul or R&B or dance. It's definitely music of a black origin. I don't know what it is. I can't think, but it's strongly reminding me of something there. Um,
Interesting.
and then we get the chorus once more. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be much of a chorus if it only appeared once. So I think I missed it the first time because of that sort of wail of the shock and everything, coming in. It's sort of real impact. But the chorus is actually multi-voiced, as it were, and I don't think it's him multi-tracked or other guys chipping in. But it
Hmm.
gets a bit of that sort of almost a groupthink feel to it when they exclaim, "I've really got to get out of here." And it's like, we're all thinking this.
Yeah,
And I've noticed the synth line in the chorus a lot more. It fills out, and there's a rising note, I think, from a keyboard, which is within the mix. It's not right at the front, but again, it adds subconsciously to the sort of the sort of voice of concern or anxiety within the chorus of like, got to get out of here. Post chorus, post second chorus, we go into the sort of rock section with this pounding drum beat and heavily strung guitars that are sort of syncopated to it, synchronized to it almost. The singer mentions being under the gun and something about their work here done. Um, and then we go back into the chorus and they have these swirling falsetto notes as well. Which sort of really add to the sort of maelstrom of it. Really heavy guitar chords as well, and the keyboards really layering at this point. And they repeat their assertion they've got to get out of here. And that last line is delivered a cappella, which is a tried and tested trick, but it's effective. That's why it's done.
yeah.
And and they finish just before the announcement. The next station is Elephant and Castle. So yeah, this was pretty catchy. This did display his vocal talents and abilities better than the previous song. The showcase of what he can do. I
Hmm.
thought it was quite mainstream, sort of softy rock. Um, I imagine it would go down well in a large setting, rather than a smaller club. It did remind me of Muse and some of their sort of approaches, and maybe a touch of mid-period Killers as well, something like that
Hmm.
ish. But yeah, so it's interesting. I will say this without trying to antagonize anyone, because I really don't want to do that. It's
Or
interesting that there's a few comments about his vocal talents, and I would say this: vocal quality. You could have technique and ability versus there's other things as well, like, for want of a better word, soulfulness, but
yeah.
communication and delivery. So you get this age-old argument between Mariah and Whitney. Both have amazing voices, but one, I think, has more depth than the other. Um, and you get other ones along that line. And I really didn't pick it, but someone like her, that's an amazing voice. Um, I think he has clearly got ability with his voice, but on one or two listens, I can't judge as to how much of a connection I would have. It was someone like Tom York,
Hmm.
who, to be fair, developed really, really worked and developed on his voice over his career. You compare the first couple of albums to later on, there's a big difference in the way he does his vocal runs and
Uh-huh.
everything. I mean, he really has developed his voice into something
And
very
you
special. And I'm thinking,
speaking
sorry,
just speaking of him, he was a huge influence on Connor Mason, the singer of this band, was Tom York.
I would
So
imagine so. I
yeah,
mean, there's someone else that, again, I don't know how long ago we did it, but it was McCormick and Butler, the song Yes.
yeah,
And David McCormick had that amazing sort of, I don't know, it's 4 octave voice or whatever it is. I mean, again, that's he never quite became a household name, as it were. And I think that's the material he's working with, the songs, rather than his vocal talent.
yeah,
So you can have people who've got the best voices in the world, but there's that other X factor, and there's also the material as well. These are all important things. And there are people whose voices aren't great, but their material is so good. I mean, we
yeah,
just recently discussed Pete Doherty. His voice isn't the best in the world, but the
yeah.
way it works within the material he's done was just perfect for that. So these are all interesting points. So just the fact that I don't go gaga over this guy with his falsetto doesn't mean that he's terrible. It doesn't mean I don't
Yeah.
appreciate it, but it doesn't quite resonate with me. Something like, sorry to hark back to someone a bit older, but I mean, like, Robert Plant or even James Dean Bradfield, out of Mannix, who
Mm.
again does quite interesting things with his voice as well. So, so in terms of his voice and how widely held it is by certain people who commented
Sure.
on it, fair enough. I can
Yeah,
get that.
yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's just subjectivity, and it's like, who gives a shit? If you like something, it doesn't mean that by default everyone must. It's different courses for different horses. But yeah, let me jump into the band. I appreciate all your feedback about the song as well, John. Nothing But Thieves, English rock band, formed in 2012 in Southend-on-Sea, Essex, consisting of lead vocalist and guitarist Connor Mason, guitarist Joe Langridge Brown, guitarist and keyboardist Dominic Craik, and bassist Philip Blake, and drummer James Price. Their style of music has been compared to the likes of Jeff Buckley, Foals, Civil Twilight, Queens of the Stone Age, Royal Blood, and Muse. Since we already did a deeper dive into the band and their backstory on our episode devoted to Nothing But Thieves and their track Amsterdam, uh, off the band's second album, Broken Machine, I'm going to try to keep focus on the band's debut self-titled album, on which this track features. It was released October 16th, 2015 in the UK through Sony Music, and on February 5th, 2016 in the US through RCA Victor. It was produced by Julian Emery. It entered the official UK albums chart at number 7 and peaked at number 3 on iTunes and was number 1 in the vinyl album charts. Their single Trip Switch climbed to number 1 on the US Billboard Alternative Format Airplay chart. Their sold out Ban All Music tour of the UK began on October 19th, 2015. A second British tour in April of 2016, called the Under My Skin Tour, was announced November 9th, 2015. The band had to postpone some of the dates of their Under My Skin tour as they were asked to support Muse on their Drones tour. They tweeted their elation on Twitter, branding the experience pretty awesome. In June 2016, they announced further tour dates in November and December of 2016 in Birmingham, Manchester, and London, climaxing at the 5,000 capacity Brixton Academy. As of May 4th, 2017, the album has sold over 250,000 copies. I'm sure that number has swelled since then, and accumulated 174 million track streams. Again, I'm sure that number has gone up. Georgia Jackson of the Soundboard Reviews scored the album a 9 out of 10 and wrote of it, "Nothing But Thieves is completely and utterly jam-packed with anthems. Every single one of the 12 tracks is unconditionally epic, but one of their mammoth rock numbers, be it one of their mammoth rock numbers or beautifully lush ballads. The riffs of singles, Ban All Music, and Itch are already telling of the quintet's more radio-friendly sound. And while most of the album would fit that description, that's not to say that there isn't some experimentation going on. Painkiller seems to pay homage to punk with its hypersonic guitars, while Hostage sounds so 80s it's almost hard to believe that the band is producing all of these songs. And the aforementioned ballads are just as impressive. If I Get High is simply gorgeous, transitioning from being sparse and vulnerable to a textured full band effort. Closer Tempt You is haunting and dreamily atmospheric, adding piano into the mix to create something effortlessly beautiful. And she would add, but it's crystal clear that the main focus of Nothing But Thieves is singer Connor Mason. It's a massive understatement to call him talented. The range of notes he is able to produce is nothing short of outstanding, as shown on the magnificent opener Excuse Me, where he shifts from soft, wispy tones to a full-on falsetto. This falsetto is a core feature of most of the songs on this album, and Mason's vocal efforts are the reason why the band are so different to their fellow rock bands. In his review for Bittersweet Symphonies, Lewis Lloyd Kinnings reviewed the album and wrote, Excuse Me is a powerful opening statement. Singer Connor Mason wastes no time in showing off his Jeff Buckley, Matt Bellamy-inspired vocal acrobatics after an atmospheric opening minute. So yeah, some of the stuff you picked on, it seems others did as well. From here through to the fourth track and every single, and early single, Itch, the eponymous debut is a tour de force of Nothing But Thieves' theatrical pop rock, made up of big riffs, wailing choruses, epic lead lines, and pounding rhythms. And he would add, Nothing But Thieves have put themselves in a strong position for evolution in any one of multiple directions. The quality of songwriting and production is in general too means they have enough credit in the bank for us to take an eventual second album very seriously. Confessedly, I wasn't sure what all the hype was about, based on my own lack of actual investigation into the group, but immersing myself in this LP has gone some way to opening my eyes to what a lot of music fans can see in these guys. Gary Lambert of Pop Music wrote in his review, buy this album. If I could get away with those three words, that would have been my review of the eponymous debut album by Nothing But Thieves. It is not going to change your life, but it is going to improve your music library. Imagine a musical world where Jeff Buckley leads the Benz era Radiohead. This is to my mind the best way I can describe one of the most exciting pieces of accessible rock music I've heard in years. And according to WordPress, at times they're freely blasting out rock jams, Mason's voice soaring like a jet fighter above it all. Moments later, you could be dropped into the most delicate lullaby. The overall effect is pretty special. The standout tracks are numerous here. Other than those already mentioned, Tempt You is perhaps the very best. While lyrically it's perhaps slightly simplistic, musically it's rich and with beauty, building superbly from a soft, soulful groove into a dynamic denouement. Brilliant stuff. Immortal Reviews scored the album an 81 out of 100 and wrote of this track, Excuse Me opens the record nicely. The brooding guitar intro followed the rundown vocals. It's a very sparse intro, but when the chorus comes in huge with the electrifying falsetto from Connor Mason, you know it's more than just another rock album without a punch. The grandiose of the chorus is subdued, but definitely elevating the track, quickly leading into the urgency of Ban All the Music, the talk about a killer start. So, these lyrics. His space crowds out your space, his space crowds out hers. Coffee breath and headphone hiss, but no one says a word. Eyes open the paper headline, refuge in your phone. Bumping shoulders, cough and sniff, but no one says hello. Excuse me while I run. I really gotta get out of here. Excuse me while I run. I really gotta get out of here. My heart beats like yours does, hers does. My heart keeps good time. And every day I mind the gap between you and me. I really like that line because it's talking about literally this minding the gap at the tube station, surrounded by humanity, while everyone is kind of ignoring everyone else's existence and just living in their own tunnel vision. I don't just think it's a cool line. Here comes someone else to share the air we breathe. Excuse me while I run. I really got to get out of here. Reach out for anyone, and they will tell you get out of here. I'm asking everyone. You got to help me get out of here. Excuse me while I run. I really got to get out of here. Meanwhile, under the gun, hey everyone, our work here is done. We out. You gonna come? Hey everyone, our work here is done. Excuse me while I run. I really gotta get out of here. Reach out for anyone, and they will tell you to get out of here. I'm asking everyone, you gotta help me get out of here. Excuse me while I run. I really gotta get out of here. So yeah, the song captures the essence of the band's sound, reflecting the dynamic contrast of light and dark, while the lyrics underscore the struggle of navigating through the complexities of overpopulated London life and the hustle and bustle of it all. Per the band, excuse me, this was one of the very first songs we'd written that truly was the sound of Nothing But Thieves, and we were happy to put our fingers on it. We were like, let's do more like this. I guess it kind of depicted the sound we were looking for. It was the first song that really captured sonically what we were after. And not that a song particularly epitomizes our sound, but I think that but this one captures it quite well. That's why I felt it was right to open the album with it. One of the first songs we wrote, so therefore one of the first songs we would want people to hear by Nothing But Thieves. Connor Mason would add, I think it is the first song in the writing process where we'd figure out how to use my voice with the falsettos. And it was quite a good base for a lot of our later writing. So that's quite important to us. And I'm glad that we got it on first. I had those lyrics or the lyrical concept at least for a long, long time. I kept trying to write that song, and that's probably like the fifth time that I had tried to write Excuse Me, but obviously in different formats. I don't know, the music bit that we had just seemed to fit the whole getting lost in London life feel. So there you have it. I will say that this song hits way different when I heard it during and subsequent listens after the pandemic. You were right to bring that up. This idea of living close confines, but disassociated from one another's well-being or any concern. It just this apathetic approach to sharing society with all of these people that you're like herded in like cattle with is an interesting bit of subject matter, especially in a post-pandemic world. But yeah, go ahead, John.
Forgive my ignorance, but aside from New York City, is there any other cities in America that have a underground or a metro system, whatever you
Yeah,
call
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. There's plenty. There's plenty that don't and should though. But Chicago comes to mind. DC
No?
has one. Um, God, a lot of it is mostly bus systems though. Like I'm pretty sure San Francisco's a bus system. We here in Baltimore have a bus system.
Well,
Um,
they have a
yeah,
tram system in San Francisco, don't they? Famously,
yeah,
like
well they've used
streetcars, trams.
yeah like trolleys, streetcars. Yeah, but that's almost more of like
Yeah,
a tourist attraction than it is an
yeah, yeah.
actual taken for serious means of transportation. Um, But yeah, some do, but not enough do. And then I can't speak for the West Coast, but the train system that connects our cities on the East Coast exists as well, Penn Station and all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, my brother lived in the Lower East Side in Brooklyn for like 10 years, so I'm familiar with that same kind of feeling as I would go up there for concerts, sporting events, and just long weekends to visit them and stuff. So, um, yeah. Yeah, it's imagine that feeling.
It's interesting. Oh, yeah, I think you're back in the room.
Okay, all right, great. So, we're talking about the transit system. But yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just in this country there is only London that has an underground system. Um, some of the other things you mentioned, like the trams, came back to Manchester, Nottingham nearby me. They've also reintroduced the trams. I know where my parents live in France, city there, Le Mans, they reintroduced like kind of like trams and little train systems throughout the city, and it's
Hmm.
transformed that place. Really has brilliant, linking them up all the major things, hospital, university, and center. But yeah, there's something about the underground which is just is really interesting, and human interaction
Yeah,
sort of, changes as you go down the escalators. You sort of go further and further away from humanity.
yeah,
And then you come
yeah,
back into the light and people act normal again. Very interesting. And in the summer, when it's hot, it's hellish. It is awful. It really is.
yeah.
Uh, but there you go. So it's interesting. He talks about that, and it's sort of, but you've got to use it to get around London. I know a couple of people went down to stay in London for a week, and they refused to use the tube, and it's just they must have spent a fortune on
Good
like
Lord, yeah.
taxis, and the buses are so unreliable because of the traffic. But yeah, interesting. So his take on it as well, I could picture it very, very easily.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you going back to the well on these guys and giving them another listen. There are one or two more tracks I have in mind to bring further on down the road by them that hopefully showcase Mr. Mason's, in my estimation, talented voice. And guys out there in the listening audience, if you got tracks by them or anyone else you would like to check out, please drop them down in the comments field below. We are always taking in new recommendations and adding it to our ever-growing list that we use for our Friday episodes to educate our decisions on what we listen to on those episodes. They are dedicated to viewer suggestions, so please keep them coming. Also, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. Goes a long way to help us out over here at the channel. Only costs you a couple clicks and seconds. So thank you so much in advance for any of y'all that take us up on that. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.